Hello, I'm Shellen Briand. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. No-code solutions promise to democratize access to advanced technologies like AI. And this accessibility is going to be reshaping more than it has already the digital marketing landscape and will bring various opportunities and challenges. And I'm really excited today that Peter Bittner and I have the opportunity to interview Giorgio and dive into this topic. And Giorgio is a Mind Studio certified developer. He is a seasoned marketing professional with a strong emphasis on SEO, and his expertise is ranging from launching campaigns, creating digital experiences, and guiding users through the buyer's journey, and has this passion around the intersection between AI, SaaS, SEO, and marketing, and is just becoming an expert in the space. And Peter Bittner and I will be tag teaming and doing some interviewing. And Peter is the CEO and founder of The Upgrade. And The Upgrade specializes in no-code AI upskilling. And he is also a lecturer at the University of California, Berkeley, and has a really interesting story to tell. So why don't we start here? Thank you both for joining me. Peter, you want to give just a little bit of background and how you came to find out about Mind Studio, which is one of the elements we're going to share today.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Upgrade is an online academy and training institute that's really focused on bridging the digital AI skills gap, right? And so I've been teaching AI in my courses at Berkeley for the last few years, and I started the Upgrade to be able to expand my offerings and not necessarily be tied to the academic calendar or schedule and start my own brand. And in my courses, where there are a lot of professional marketers and communications professionals, I started to tinker with Mind Studio and discovered just how powerful and versatile it is for marketers and comms pros. But then I kept playing with it and realized this is unbelievably versatile for almost any use case and type of industry, right? And so I reached out to the co-founder and CEO of Mind Studio, Dimitri Shapiro, and we got to talking. One thing led to another, and I've been partnering now with Mind Studio for the past 4 or 5 months to help create their Mind Studio certified developer program. So starting from the curriculum and educational programming to the certification exam process. And Giorgio is kind of one of the OG lecturers in our courses, right? He's someone who's been sort of with Mind Studio as an early user, an adopter, an expert, even before our certification program existed. He's kind of like the man who was born inside the Matrix. He's been there since day zero, and I've really enjoyed working with Giorgio, and I'm excited to chat with you about this specific AI use case. And you have so much to offer, Giorgio. Thank you so much for making time for this. I know you're very busy. Mind Studio has now hired Giorgio. He's working and showcasing his expertise daily now on the YouTube channel there and many other places.
Beautiful. Well, Giorgio, and I know that we have a great opportunity you're going to share a bit of a presentation that is going to, I find it so inspiring with the ability to really automate and create things that have just not been possible. And you have that great background of doing this both pre-AI and then post-AI and be able to share that. And then really behind the curtains and share a demo and really showcase how you are creating some of these solutions. So thank you again for being here. And why don't we turn it over to you?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. And thank you for all the nice words from both Shalene and Peter. Are we sharing the screen right now or still now?
We will be
okay.
right now.
Great. So I want to talk about automating everything today, and that's mostly in the context of marketing. As Shalene mentioned, I'm still a marketer, but I also work for Mind Studio. And before working for Mind Studio, I was actually a client of Mind Studio. Like my previous company decided to use their product to build our own SEO processes. And while managing the SEO there, we basically upscaled content production, content analysis, reporting, any sort of thing that you need to do for SEO was pretty much automatable or somewhat assisted by AI. And it had incredible results, both in terms of how many outputs we got, like how many articles we were able to publish, how many articles were successful, so that were ranking on Google, and how we were able to manage the pipeline, like content updates, content refactoring, and reporting for SEO metrics. So here we have like automate everything. And the concept is there is already something you can automate in your company or in your workflows. And that's probably easier than you think. So today we're going to look at an example and we're going to look at some use cases for AI. First of all, why AI, right? AI can research, write, and act on your behalf. The 2023 was pretty much the age of AI as a researcher. And now we are more in the AI as an agentic force. Like you can actually do stuff with AI and you can have AI do things for you. You don't have just ChatGPT or these random chatbots that you might use. You can actually go a step further and have AIs that summarize for you and send the summary somewhere else. You can have AIs that write articles and publish the draft on WordPress. You can have AIs that record meetings and then give you some short summary over Slack. You can have AIs that do like half of your work during the week, and you want to decrease quality. And you can even remain in the loop, right? You don't have to have the AI do everything for you and act on your behalf without you being in the loop. You can remain in the loop. You can review what the AI does, but at the same time, you can have AI output much, much faster results and even very good results, depending on your use case. I also don't believe that prompt engineering is the future. There are many headlines on newspapers talking about like jobs that pay 300K to be prompt engineers and things like that. The reality is there were an era where ChatGPT was first released, where people were selling these prompts for ChatGPT. They were selling some magic prompt to write articles better. First of all, they never really worked. There's no specific prompt you can input into ChatGPT that will output a great article on your behalf. And that's simply because ChatGPT is not a tool built for long-form article generation. It's a tool built to chat with you. And that's why the name is ChatGPT. It's not Article GPT, right? So first of all, people don't know how to use certain things that they use daily, but they don't want the learning curve, right? So people don't know how to use search operators, for example, and yet they use Google every day. Search operators are very powerful, and everyone working in SEO knows how to use search operators, but 2 billion people using Google every day don't. So the learning curve doesn't have to be small. Like it doesn't need to be a very fast learning curve. It has to be zero. If people do not want to learn absolutely anything, you need to give them a user interface. It needs to work fine, and it needs to do what they want to do with it. So there can't be like, well, you just need to spend 3 hours to learn how to use ChatGPT and then it will output great articles. Yeah, but that's too much. The learning curve is for people like us. It's for the builders. It's not for the end users using the product. Also, AI is the most revolutionary tech in a very long time since I've been on this planet. And since I started my career, I don't think I've ever seen something as revolutionary and as impactful for many, many people's jobs than AI. And it can't be that the only thing we can do with it is save prompts in Apple Notes and hope that that will return a good result. It's just way too rudimentary. It's way too simplistic. I don't think that's the future. It's also not about being a chatbot or using chatbots. The first use of AI and what made AI popular is definitely ChatGPT. And that was like skyrocketed AI usage and adoption, but it's not the main use case anymore. Like when you use it in a business critical environment or when you use it for real purposes, it's usually not a chat. You're not chatting with something. You're using AI to do something for you, return the output, and iterate on the output and continue from there. And lastly, learning how to write prompts is not something an agency can sell, right? If you work for an agency or if you're a freelancer, it's not really something you can sell people. You can't go to them and say, okay, I can write a very good ChatGPT prompt for you, because there's a very limited amount of prompts you can write that will perform better than other prompts, and because it's not a marketable skill. When you learn how to build actual AI workflows that interact with different apps and interact with different workflows and really fit within something that you already do, but help you do it better or faster, then that's the real value. And that's what people pay for. That's what people value. That's what people use. The dilemma of no code is always a dilemma of flexibility versus ease of use. So ChatGPT in the AI space is definitely on the ease of use space. Everyone can use ChatGPT. You don't even need to log in anymore. They made it publicly available for everyone. And on the other side, you have the hard to start and full flexibility, which is coding. So if you're a programmer, you always had the reign of AI in your hands. You can use any open source model, you can connect to Hugging Face, you can do all the nerdy tech stuff. But for marketers, we're usually non-coders, right? And we still want the power of AI, we just don't know how to implement it without coding. In Mind Studio sits right there in the sweet spot, where there is a learning curve. You definitely need to learn something to use Mind Studio. But once you hop on that and once you learn how to use it, you can deploy solutions for your clients, you can deploy solutions for yourself, you can upscale your agency, you can really do a lot of things that you just weren't able to do before because you lacked the coding knowledge. And lacking coding knowledge is not going to be such a showstopper anymore for AI, because AI can code for you as well. So in Mind Studio, we have custom functions. And if you don't know how to write custom functions yourself to expand the functionalities, we provide your custom functions, we provide you with custom functions, and you can even write custom functions using AI. So there's a lot of things going on in Mind Studio, and we can talk about it more when we do the demo. But generally speaking, there is a learning curve. It's not as easy as coding, but it's definitely way more flexible than just going on ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT to do something for you. ChatGPT also has custom GPTs. So one of the most common questions we get is, why would I use Mind Studio versus why would I use custom GPTs? So I have a comparison table here. There's a lot to read. We can share the slides later if you want to. But basically, let's go step by step, and I will give you a brief overview. First of all, ChatGPT custom GPTs only work for Pro subscriptions. So someone needs to be subscribed to ChatGPT Pro or ChatGPT Enterprise to be able to use your custom GPTs. It's not something you can embed on your website. It's not something you can call from an API. It's a standalone product that serves as a container in ChatGPT and only works in that environment. While Mind Studio has collaborative workspaces, you can embed AIs on your website. You can embed AIs on your clients' websites if you offer it as a service. You can have AI work in your Slack channel with the API. It's just full flexibility in terms of where you can deploy this. ChatGPT offers GPT models only. So you cannot use Claude in these kind of ChatGPTs. And it's also using top models, Google, Meta, and open source alternatives. It's just a chat interface. You can't build workflows with ChatGPT. You can only build things that self-serve as a chat. It's not a professional environment. You can't really sell ChatGPT usage or custom GPTs in that sense. And it doesn't tailor to enterprises other than the ChatGPT enterprise plan. Lastly, it's not the core focus of OpenAI. It's just a marketing product. It's not something that will help you in the long term. They're probably not going to develop custom GPTs to serve the purpose that you want them to serve. These are some examples of how marketers can use AI. They can use it for article writing, keyword research, crafting, outreach messages, viral campaigns, event planning, all sorts of different things. Again, we can share the slides with you. We can talk about it. If you're using AI already and if you're using ChatGPT, you probably know where it's lacking and what AI can help you with. But if you don't, we have plenty of examples on our homepage, and we're happy to help brainstorm. Okay, so this is the demo I'd like to show you today. It's a meeting summarizer. I know that it's not the article writer that everyone builds, but the article writer is a very cliche use case nowadays. And I wanted to show you something that you can learn how to build right now. And the meeting summarizer tutorial is already on our YouTube channel. So if you like what you're seeing, or if you want to understand how to build it, we are going to take a quick overview and a quick look at how it's built. But if you want to build it yourself, you can go on our YouTube channel. There is a full tutorial on how to build the meeting summarizer, how to build the meeting summarizer with custom functions, which means something that will take the result from the meeting summarizer and push it to Slack. And we're also going to have the meeting summarizer working in HubSpot. So if you're a marketer, you probably use HubSpot or you're familiar with HubSpot, and you can have AIs that work within your HubSpot CRM. So you don't have to leave the interface. You don't need to use the Mind Studio interface. You simply go in HubSpot, do your stuff in HubSpot, and the AI will work for you. Okay. So this is what Mind Studio looks like. It's a very simple dashboard to look at. It's not particularly complicated. And you can see what happens right here in the block interface. So you have the start block, you have the user input, and you have the send message for the prompt. Just to give you an idea of what's happening here. This is a workflow that works within Mind Studio. So let me show you what it looks like once opened. When you go in new thread, you can upload the meeting transcript, something that you have on your computer or something that you have in the cloud. You upload the meeting transcript, the AI will work for you and will return an actual summary, right? So this is what a summary looks like. And once you have the summary, you can chat with the summary. And all of this happens in Mind Studio with our interface, absolutely no code required. And from the back end, this is what it looks like. You first have to collect the meeting transcript. That's a file. And if you go inside the user input, you can see that it's an upload file kind of input. And then we are sending a message. Now, the send message block in Mind Studio is an AI interaction. So it interacts with an AI model. In this case, the AI model is Claude 3 Sonnet. And we're asking the AI to do something. And that something is generate the meeting summary. Let me zoom in a little bit. So it says assistant will now generate the meeting summary starting from the transcript. We collected the transcript in the step before, so we can refer to that as a dynamic variable. Here we have the transcript. And then the summary will include the following information in the proper Markdown format. We give the AI the instructions it needs to generate the prompt and the summary. And then we have the notes for assistance. So there are always key decisions to make. There are always highlights, and the salesperson will use this transcript to inform future decisions. So this is what you would type in ChatGPT, for example, or you would type in any AI. But you can use variables, and the variables can be input you take during the workflow. And you can also use any kind of model you want. You're not restricted to ChatGPT's models, which are GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. In this example, we are using Claude 3 Sonnet. Well, one cool thing, by the way, is that you're not restricted by location either. So, for example, Claude, like a Claude 3 family and everything in the Claude chatbot is not available where I live because I live in Europe. And the Claude chatbot is not available in the European Union. So you can use the API very easily inside of Mind Studio. There's absolutely no restriction on the geolocation. So I'm using Claude 3 Sonnet here, but I can use any model from the Claude 3 family. We have Akkio, Opus, and Sonnet. I can use Gemini Pro. I can use GPT-4 Turbo, GPT-4. There is Mistral, the open source model, the models from Meta, and the models from Google. Okay. So this is what it looks like, and then it ends in a chat terminator. The terminators are green, and they represent the end of a workflow in Mind Studio. The terminators can be end, which is like, okay, the thing is done. I don't want the user to be able to do anything else after the send message block runs and executes. There is the revised document, which is a document editor. So you will kind of have something like a Google Doc or a Microsoft Doc that you can work on. You have the chat endpoint, which is the most popular because you can continue chatting with whatever the AI produced for you. And the data source explorer, which is very specific for data sources. So if you want to chat with a PDF, for example, you can build your own chat with your PDF in literally 10 minutes in Mind Studio without using an external software. And generally speaking, if you already use an AI tool for marketing, you can probably rebuild it here. So if you use Copy AI for writing, you can have your Copy AI copy here. If you use chat with your PDF, you can build your chat with your PDF. You can build pretty much everything you use already in one tool and use the models and prompts that you prefer. Now, this same workflow can be expanded. So instead of having the summary here in Mind Studio, in the chat endpoint, I can have it sent to my Slack. And in order to send it to Slack, you can use the Zapier webhook. So there is a block here in Mind Studio in the workflow builder called run function. And run function has a lot of different functions that you can run. This is all no code. And it's similar to an app or a plugin, an add-on, something that you add to the workflow that's not part of the default workflow. You can see we have Calendly, we have Airtable, Discord webhooks, fetch request if you want to fetch an API. We have generate images with DALL-E. We have generate images with Stable Diffusion, which is much cheaper and sometimes more cost efficient than DALL-E. They get Google Calendar events. We can get YouTube videos for you. We can perform a Google search, much more. One of the functions is the Zapier webhook. So the Zapier webhook is going to send the summary, which is generated as exactly as before, but this time we're saving it as a response, as a variable. We are now sending this response to the Zapier webhook, to a Zapier workflow, and then Zapier is deciding what happens after, which is sending the response to Slack. This is still a workflow that starts in Mind Studio. We generate everything in Mind Studio, then we save as a variable, and we send it externally. And then that external endpoint, which is on Zapier, is going to elaborate the information and send it to Slack, send it to Google Sheet, send it wherever you want. We are then showing the user with another prompt what was sent. This is not AI. This is just the platform showing the user something, what's contained in this variable. And then there is the chat endpoint, which is not particularly useful in this example. Finally, we have the API call. And the API call looks very, very simple because this time we are not entering anything from MindStudio. This entire workflow runs away from the platform. It runs inside of HubSpot. So inside of HubSpot, whenever someone updates a field, whenever someone updates the meeting transcript property in HubSpot, this thing runs. And these things will take the transcript, which is coming from HubSpot. It's going to generate the summary. And then we're going to take that summary and display it in HubSpot. If you want, I can show you what it looks like. I can open the HubSpot instance, but if you visualize how it works in HubSpot, this is basically the same workflow. We're generating the summary with the same exact prompt. The only difference is that the input and the interaction here is not in the MindStudio UI. It's inside of HubSpot. And this can work inside of Salesforce. It can work inside of Snowflake. It can work inside of anything that integrates with Zapier. As long as you can send the data, you can initialize the data with this launch variables thing, this syntax, and you can initialize any variable. Once that variable is initialized and the prompt is filled up and completed on the MindStudio side, you can use it to move forward and send the data wherever you need it to be. I'm sure there are questions though, so if Shalene wants to hop back on, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have such a great way of talking through this in such a logical manner. I think one of the elements for people that aren't developer types is the idea that this is going to be really complicated, and it is very accessible. I think for me personally, that was what was so exciting about it, is the things I wanted to create or I could imagine. It was just out of my skill set. And this became a vehicle to being able to do things that have been so interesting. And for those of you listening that have more technical skills, it's really transformative. So you can do even more. So I will keep an eye here on the chat and see about questions. Feel free to post them either live, or for those of you that are watching the replay, go ahead and post them and we will source the answers. But one of the questions that was asked was around what advice you might give marketers or any other professional that's considering integrating AI, but kind of overwhelmed about how to even begin. What advice would you say of like, how do they begin? How can they look at their situation and navigate that journey effectively? And really to both of you, because I know you're working with individuals there. And I know that there's certainly a process and thinking around it.
Giorgio, I'm curious about your perspective. I love that slide with all of the different ways in which marketers can use AI. You had SEM, you had SEO, you had, guerrilla marketing campaigns and all of that. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how you recommend people get started?
Yeah, sure. Ashley mentioned it's very accessible, and sometimes we, like on my end, we overcomplicate things because we use AI every day. But when you look at your workflows, you're probably going to find something that's actually very easy to automate. I'll give you an example. When I look at YouTube Shorts or TikTok, now I'm always in the AI space, right? And it sometimes suggests me stuff that to me looks so simple and absolutely not interesting, but it gets millions of views and people are so excited and people are so overwhelmed by how useful it is and things like that. I remember someone sharing a color matcher. You would basically enter, this is the main color for my website, for my landing page, can you build association colors, stuff like that for the CTAs? And everyone was wowed by it. I'm like, yeah, that's something that you could do like 2 years ago. But if you look at it and you actually look at everything you do on a daily basis, you're going to find something that is very easy to automate. It's something like maybe you look at emails on a Google Sheet every day and you want to understand what percentage of people work in tech. And you have their name, you have their industry, you want to know how many people work in tech. That's literally one user input. You want to upload the CSV and one prompt, right? Like one send message. Please identify people working in tech and tell me like in a table what percentage work in tech. You can do that for some very easy workflows. Same thing for social media posts. If you have 10 or 20 social media posts that you really like, that you built yourself, you can upload them as training data source to the AI. And then the future social media posts that you want to write can be AI basically, or at least AI assisted, right? Sometimes it's not perfect. It's not always going to output what you want. But if it saves you like 90% of the time, I think that's already a pretty good gain. Same thing for videos as well, like video scripts. If you're building some scripts for your videos on YouTube and you have a specific style that you want to follow, you can upload the training data set. You can use the AI in a customized way. And you can use Claude to write the script because that's typically more like copy oriented.
Those are some great examples. I encourage, my students and folks who reach out to me to start keeping track of their day and where they're spending most of their time. Look at their Google Calendar or look at their to-do list and think about what are the biggest sort of time sucks, and start there, right? A lot of times I think people really like the shiny sort of new features, like, the Sora demo, for example, really powerful, not here yet, right? So we get, I think, lost in the hype sometimes. And that's something that I try to help people sort through a bit and have a bit of like almost like a product manager style mentality of just thinking like, okay, what are the core problems that I need to solve? And then exploring and helping guide people to think about what are the ways in which you can actually create tailored AI automations using Mind Studio, or many other amazing capabilities within the Mind Studio suite of tools, like the Zapier integrations, right? In particular, for even next level time savings and optimization. So I think that there's a lot of ways to get started, but I would encourage people to think about, where are you spending most of your time, and then question your assumptions, right? We're in the middle of this AI transformation, and work is not going to look the same in even a year or two from now for almost any profession, right? That tends to get people scared, but I think it should be exciting, right? And yes, there's going to be disruption. Your role will change, but guess what? You get to be, if you have kind of a proactive approach and mindset, helping to shape how your schedule and your time is going to be best spent. And so this is something that I, help people to try to understand, is that this is one of the coolest times to be, a knowledge worker, in marketing, in sales, in any field, really, to just think through, the ways in which you can be best allocating your finite resource, the most valuable one, which is your time.
Yeah. One of the things I've really appreciated is the conversation around sort of degrees and areas of study that were discouraged in this past season because it was really hard to make a living and you need to get practical skills and, a lot of pressure there. This idea of now that so much of that's going to be very accessible for people, information, how you're working with it, that creativity, the arts, the curiosity, some of the things that really help you stand out as an individual are being discussed, about those being even the more powerful types of degrees and areas of study, because some of the development that was so encouraged will be very accessible using AI. So I think it's really a unique time to explore. One of the other questions was around sort of the ethical considerations, and this is true for everywhere, but in marketing, data privacy concerns, algorithmic biases. Do you have any advice around principles that professionals and marketers should adhere to when leveraging AI technologies, and how they can even think through that idea of ethical use?
Such an important question. I highly recommend, every agency, organization, or even if you're a solopreneur, to have, a clear set of guidelines and, compass for using AI tools, right? I think it's really important to invest in that and spend the time and resources. There's a lot of great templates out there, for, best practices, but yeah, suddenly, these tools have really unleashed a whole variety of potential, exciting applications, as well as ways in which they could be used unethically. And so it's really critical to, reflect on, how best to employ these. And I'm really glad you brought up, some of the diversity and bias issues, right? A lot of these data sets are, trained pretty much, many, if not all of them, on the internet, which is, a product of our own societal biases. And so this is a critical point that you brought up. I'm curious if Giorgio has any reflections on how best, from sort of building, perspective, to really think about those. But I think it's important. And one thing that's really cool is to use your own data sets, right? Use your own data sources, to train your assistants on your own, proprietary vetted information, to avoid having, the training data alone. If you're just using ChatGPT, for example, you're missing out, first of all, on some of the best and most capable, applications of AI right now, using RAG, right? Retrieval augmented generation, the ability to have really customized, you know, uh, answers, responses to your queries that are based on data that you have vetted and control is one of the best ways to avoid having some of those issues.
Yeah, I think one interesting point is that AI is kind of an outlier in how it's being developed. Well, first of all, it's developed at breakneck speed, like it's really insane speed. Just yesterday, we got something like 4 new models from Google, Meta, and OpenAI. And I had this example for one of the events we held where like they've been building a restaurant in front of my place for like a year and a half, and they opened it yesterday. And if you look at the change in AI and what AI could do 1 year and a half ago, you will be really, really shocked, because 1 year and a half ago, we didn't have AI images, we didn't have AI videos, we didn't have a lot of stuff that we give for granted today. And even these models were so incredibly basic, they could only do text completion, not really an actual response. They would just continue what you were writing. So the speed is one of that, but also the gatekeeping in the AI community right now is very, very low. And I think that's very exciting. It's not about who can lock the garden earlier, which is and always has been the idea behind the Apple Store or the App Store in Google, etc. I think in AI, it's all a lot more open. And if you want to do something with AI, you can do something with AI. And if you want to understand how to use AI, you typically can very easily and for free. And or at least the models themselves are free of very big biases. That being said, they do have biases because, as Peter said, they're built on the internet. And I do support the idea of having some labeling of these biases. I don't think you can eliminate them. I think all models will have bias. But I would like to know, and I think people would like to know, what the biases are. So they should probably have some sort of indication of, okay, this model thinks like that. And when you interact with this model, you should know that this model thinks like that. I don't think you can go further than that because, every platform on the internet is biased in some way. Even the internet itself is biased because not everyone is on the internet, right? So there will always be some bias in where you gather data from. And in terms of disclosing AI, I think it's very important for educational material or whenever you are interacting with something that has real life implication for people. So if you do research, for example, in marketing articles and things like that, I do see the value, and it might be required in the future. My general idea there is that if it comes from you and if you as the human review it before publishing it, I kind of see it as a tool more than an actual generation. So when I use the AI to write articles, the AI did write the article, but I'm the one that inputted data sources in, right? Like I gave it the data it needed to write the article. I linked it to the right sources. I verified that the information was correct. I did the internal linking. And I see it more like when you use Microsoft Word, you're eliminating a lot of stuff that you used to do by hand before, but you're not replacing yourself in the equation. You're just augmenting what you could already do. And I think that's how I see something like when you generate content with AI, that's typically how you should think about that. I don't know of anyone that's really successful just by pushing out content that they never review or just an automated pipeline that they have no control over. When you're in there and you augment yourself, that's where I see the biggest success.
Yeah, you brought up such an important point there too, which is human review is still essential, right? In almost all of these cases, especially regarding content that's going to be published or copy that's going to be sent out professionally, really important to still build in human reviews as part of your processes, right? And making sure that the buck stops with you, so to speak, right? You have ownership and responsibility and accountability for the use of AI in your professional workflows in your organizations.
I think one of the elements to me that has been really staggering, and I think, Giorgio, your point about where we were, a year and a few months ago to today, just the difference a year ago from the amount of hours required to do certain things in my job, I was able to cut out at least 8 hours a week, which is massive. As a busy working professional, having 8 more hours, it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to move the work. It just finally gave me the time to do the wish list things, like the actual human elements of the deeper thinking, the more creativity, the trying to come up with something that was unique. And that was amazing compared to today. And it just is so fast, and you can customize it so beautifully. That chat GPT experience, when you're having to, who are you acting and what are the variables, you just build all that in. You could run 1,000 of them after that, and knowing that it's really customized to your brand, your voice, how you want things presented. So it's really fascinating, but it is changing at breakneck speed. And for both of you, I'd love to kind of end the discussion today around how can you keep up? If this sparked an interest, and I can say Mind Studio is just stunning at what you can do. How do you learn Mind Studio? If you're someone that really is responsible for delivering change in your organization and want to get a little deeper, how can you learn, more than what you could do kind of on demand? So for both of you, for professionals looking to learn and then stay on the course of learning, and I don't know that you could ever get ahead of the curve at this point, but just riding this wave, what advice do you have, and where should
First of
people
all,
go?
I'm going to plug Giorgio's newsletter from Mind Studio, which I love. And remind me of the name of it. I know that you've been publishing it weekly or bi-weekly, even in some cases, it seems, for the last month or so. And I'm a huge fan. Is it AI Architect? What's the name of it? Where can people find that?
Yeah, it is. I can send it in the private chat here, I think. Yeah, I sent it in the private chat here.
Okay, perfect. And
Great.
I'll add
Yeah,
it
and
to
what
the
I love
chat
about
here.
is it has a combination, I think, of industry sort of updates with latest models, as well as best practices, new resources from Mind Studio. You got to check it out. I also write my own weekly newsletter that is really kind of at the intersection of AI and professional storytelling, right? More broadly, so it's not Mind Studio oriented, but it talks about a lot of trends. I feature interviews each week, and I also have a podcast with thought leaders, including AI founders, researchers, journalists covering tech and AI, as well as, filmmakers, marketers. It's a fun place too to learn more. And you can go to theupgrade.ai. That's THE upgrade.ai to check that out as well. But they're both great places, for regular updates. And I've been blown away and really, admire Giorgio just being so on the ball with the latest models, right? And the whole team there.
Perfect. And then what about Mind Studio specific? So, Georgia, I know that you have put together some great trainings, and you can go directly to Mind Studio, of course, and then to YouTube. So there's a QR code at the top of the screen, and that will take you directly to Mind Studio. And then there's the Mind Studio YouTube channel, has short, sweet, really follow along tutorials, very accessible. And then Peter, you have the developer training. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what the options are, and how. I'm going to go ahead and put a QR code up for the landing page for some of the upcoming choices. And then in a moment, I know you have a wait list for May, and I'll put that QR
Great.
code as
Thanks,
well.
Shellen. Yeah. So we have our, I guess, suite of offerings for the Mind Studio trainings that are going to be evolving here. So if you're watching the replay, we're going to be building out and releasing the week of April 15th, our new website, which has a 3-level or 3-tiered suite of offerings to basically, enable people to get trained up on Mind Studio, starting from the very sort of essentials and fundamental levels to, the third tier is really focused on business solutions and strategy and implementation best practices in the real world environment. We're going to be having a variety of upcoming offerings. We'll be doing trainings every other Saturday starting May 4th. And we do have a wait list for that. If you're interested, fill out the quick form there. We'll send you more info as we launch the Mind Studio Academy, which has this slightly new model, but we have an exam-based path for certification that will be coming as well. So if you're already using Mind Studio, you can take that exam and get your certified developer badge that way too. But there's a ton of great resources and free trainings that Giorgio and his team are offering nearly every day, it seems, right? There's incredible YouTube tutorials. There's amazing live webinars and LinkedIn lives. I would go to the Mind Studio website, go to uai.ai/learn for getting a good sense of what that existing free resource library looks like, and sign up for, if you go to their news tab in their nav bar at the top of the page, you'll be able to see when their upcoming events are. But that's a great way to get started.
Perfect. And I did just add into the chat Giorgio's email address. So certainly feel free to reach out to any of us if you'd like to be connected to the right people or to learn more. I'm personally really excited about Mind Studio and what it can accomplish, and the cost is just so you can dive in and learn and create things for free, and all the way up to huge enterprise solutions. So in a very short period of time, there have been over 40,000 AI apps and solutions created, and it's just stunning. And so it's certainly something to not miss out on. And Giorgio and Peter, I so appreciate you joining me today. It was great to share, and I'm very excited to continue these demos and showcasing what Mind Studio developers are creating into the future. So we will be doing this on a weekly basis for a few weeks. So thank you both. If you have any last words, otherwise we will wrap up for
Thanks
today.
so much, Shellen. I really appreciate the opportunity, and really excited to encourage people to explore Mind Studio more. Reach out to Giorgio and the team there. Reach out to me if you'd like to learn more about the training opportunities. We're working very closely with the Mind Studio team, including Giorgio and Luis and many of their colleagues, to constantly update our offerings and make sure that as the product continues to improve, the education really reflects that and incorporates all of these best practices that are being created in near real time, as people use the Mind Studio suite of tools in new and exciting ways.
Yeah, as Shirley mentioned, the barrier to entry to try Mind Studio is very low. So I suggest that everyone goes ahead and try. You can sign up for free. We give you $5 of credit use for free, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you look at the pricing table for Claude 3 Aiku, for example, which is one of the best models you can use, and that's cost effective, it's like 0.33 cents for 1 million tokens, which is 750,000 words. So they're very, very cheap. Most of these models are very, very cheap. The only expensive ones are very high intelligence, but you don't necessarily need the very high intelligence models all the time. So I suggest you give it a try. Of course, take a look at the upgrade course as well. If you're not like the learner type and you just want to hire someone to do it for you, the Mind Studio certified developers are also on an implementation list. So you can get in touch with Peter and he can just basically have someone build it for you. But if you are the learner type and want to learn, that's also an option. So there's definitely something for everyone. And thanks for having me, Shalin.
Absolutely. All right.